One of the things I used to ask myself often is, how do I know the difference between fear and my intuition? Especially when I was confiding in people and friends, counselors, mentors, and they said, you need to work on your discernment and trusting your intuition. It would leave me confused and baffled, because as a person who suffered from a lot of PTSD and trauma, how are you supposed to know what is actually guiding you? How to know if fear is the one guiding your decisions or if it's something else looking out for you. Well, today I want to dive into the difference between the two and let you know how I learned how to trust my intuition, and how might you know the difference between fear and paranoia and that higher voice. So what I've learned over the years is that our emotions are so very important when it comes to guiding us. And I have found that when I'm in a state of fear or anxiety, I can feel my body get tighter. I can feel it close up. I've learned how to know what fear feels like in the body. And I think that's so important for us to be able to sit with, especially when we are in the midst of making an important decision, to recognize, what is my body primarily feeling? When I'm coming to the whatever conclusion I'm coming to, where maybe a voice is saying, don't do this, don't let this person into your inner circle, don't let them in, don't respond to this message. When I'm getting that guidance, am I getting it from this space in my body, especially my gut, my heart area, my chest area? Is it feeling tight when I'm hearing that? Also, is my mind really loud? Am I spiraling? Is that intuition coming through as a lot of loud voices that is leading to a lot of worst case scenario thinking, where one thought is spiraling into another thought and it's keeping me in an endless loop of paranoia? What's the difference between that and guidance that might be the same but feels different in your body? For example, somebody reaches out to you and you have an immediate gut feeling where you know that you shouldn't respond. What I've found in that situation, when I know it's coming from my intuition and not fear, it's usually a feeling that hits me right away, instantly. But when I start to catch up with my logical mind and start thinking too much, that's when I know I'm now using my logical mind versus that very first intuitive nudge that was trying to speak with me, which is what I call my intuition. There's actually a reason in human design that this happens, because we've got 9 energy centers in human design. One of them is called the Spleen Center. So some people have an open spleen center, which means they amplify other people's splenic energy, which is the space or the center of fear. That's what the spleen is in human design. It rules our physical health, but also it is where fear lives. And it's also the voice or the energy center that speaks to us very quickly, almost like literally before you have time to consciously think about whatever it is your mind is trying to analyze. We often feel it in the splenic center first. So then there's other people who have a defined spleen center, and they are the ones projecting that energy. So if you have a defined spleen center, your intuition speaks to you quickly, like I mentioned. And it's how I learned to develop mine is honestly through retrospect. So in human design, you'll be able to look back at situations in your life, for example, where maybe you remember meeting a specific person and you remember that initial feeling that you had about them, but then you let your logical mind take over, often by habit and often by not even realizing it. And you continue down this path of starting a relationship with them, or letting them into your life or your circle, or taking that job, whatever it was that kind of gave you the initial gut feeling that you allowed your logical mind to talk you out of. When things spiral or they go in a negative way, however long that may be later, you'll often be able to look back on that situation and say, I knew it. I heard my intuition speak to me, but I talked myself out of it. I talked myself out of into ignoring those red flags. So what happens though if you have an undefined spleen center? Your energy center, your fear and your intuition, your body speak to you in a different way. It speaks to you sometimes through clairvoyance, which is a vision. Sometimes it's through clairaudience, which is hearing something. Sometimes it's clairsentience, which is feeling something. Sometimes it's claircognizance, just knowing something because you know it. And it is often influenced by your environment and who you're around. Because when we're in other energy centers and other energy fields, which, side note, remember during the pandemic when they had us stand 6 feet apart? Because our auric field expands 12 feet in diameter. So that's 6 feet all around us. So just interesting. I don't know why I brought that up, but I'm just saying that people know about the energy field, okay? So this is a real thing. So depending on how close in contact you are with other people at the time your energy is speaking to you, it may not always be your energy that you're picking up on. So one of my tips, again, if you are in an environment with a lot of people, if you can separate yourself just for a moment, just at least 12 feet apart, so you know you're in your own energy field, and then you can give yourself some space to maybe think about something more, especially if you don't know whether or not you were getting an impulse or an intuition that came from you or somebody else. Then the first thing to do is physically separate yourself. But what if it's a message or something that isn't applicable to the environment that you're in or any other potential energy fields that you could be tapping into? That's when we have to pay really close attention to what's going on inside of us and whether or not that guidance is coming from a place that is calm, steady, quiet, speaks to you quickly in the form of do this or don't do this, versus overthinking, second guessing, thinking in circles and continuously coming back around to it, feeling guilty for doing something or not doing something. The point is, the second option, there comes with a lot of mental chatter and a lot of mental energy. And if you really pay close attention to your body and what your body is holding on to, what it's trying to speak to you, that's when you'll start to notice that you feel constricted. So intuition feels expansive, calm. You're more confident when you're trusting your intuition, whether you end up doing something that you deem as good or bad. And when it's coming from a place of fear or past trauma, and it's your old PTSD that is talking to you and it's trying to protect you from being in that same situation, that's when you will start to feel constricted, small, scared. So all of that to say, at the end of the day, it's your emotions and where you're feeling it in your body that are the most important factor to help you discern your intuition versus PTSD triggers and fear that is speaking to you. So if you've never had a human design chart reading, I highly recommend getting one because you will understand your energy field better and you will understand if you have more open centers, which are easy to program, and you're more likely to pick up on energy from your environment and the people around you, versus if you have a lot of defined centers, which means you're the one projecting the energy and you're less likely to be programmed. So they do have some free websites on there, and a lot of those free websites will offer your free basic generic report. Most of those free reports don't offer information into the gates, your circuitry, or your incarnation cross, which are incredibly important aspects of your human design chart. So if you're interested in exploring that in depth, go ahead and reach out to me. You can read more about that in my description box by downloading my free guide for gate kids and neurodivergent souls. And you can also learn more about my readings there. So let me know if I forgot anything and if there's any other tips or tricks that you've learned over the years that have helped you tap into whether you're being guided by your intuition or if you're being guided by fear. I'd love to hear about it in the comments and start a conversation there. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.